Hey everybody, it's Paul Ramsey, and I'm joined by Jason Linett, who is presenting a one-hour seminar at the 2017 NGH convention. The title is, I like it, How to Hypnotize Anybody. And that's what people ask about all the time, right? Can anybody be hypnotized? How do you do it? There's so much curiosity. Jason's going to hook you up. Jason, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited about this. So what are you really, this isn't clickbait, right? Like you're gonna help
You
people
won't
figure
believe
it
number six.
out. Tell me, let's just get right into it. Why this topic of all the things you could have chose to talk about?
I'm going to say everything I'm about to say from a place of absolute positivity and love. There's an introduction for you. As I interact with many hypnotists, there's this dialogue at times. Sometimes you'd hear this, especially from someone who's maybe brand new at this. Here's a client who I could not get into hypnosis. Or you'd even hear someone boast that they've invented this many inductions. And you take a step back, and basically over the years, couple of thousand clients sitting in my chair, tens of thousands of people in a stage hypnosis environment, years of training this, hundreds of students going through my materials, and you start to recognize some patterns. And throughout it, you start to realize, okay, here's this ingredient, here's this formula. And even going back to the recordings of Dave Ellman, as there he was teaching the medical doctors, I'll paraphrase it, when you understand the rules of hypnotic suggestion, there's not a person in the world you cannot hypnotize. So to look at it from this process-oriented perspective, what are the basic ingredients that have to be there? And it's where, as much as we've got an abundance of creativity and original thinking in our profession, I sometimes playfully have to go back to the metaphor of the birthday party clown. Because you know what, little Paul, I can make you any animal balloon you want. Name any animal you like. And as long as it looks like a dog or a snake, I can make it for you.
That's
So this
awesome.
is not to discount our techniques, but it's where when you start to understand why it's working, why this technique is actually producing an effect. Why is it that if I'm with this client and now I use this strategy, they are very clearly deeper in the process. Sometimes the phone will ring and a client is calling for something that you've never heard of before. And you can't play the game of, do you have a script for this? Do you have a script for that? To understand at its core the foundational elements about how does the hypnotic induction work and what's at the core of every hypnotic suggestion. This is what builds that ability, as the title is, How to Hypnotize Anybody. So for someone who's brand new to all of this hypnosis stuff, it's a solid foundation that by revisiting this information, by looking at it from this perspective, you're going to be able to jump into any induction, any technique for change, and not play the old game of those words are magic, just read them. But you're going to know why it's working. And even for the seasoned pro who's out there, it's that ability to look at the process a little bit more analytically and to have that ability to, as I'd say, go off in a jazz format, to really improvise with the client, because now you're responding to them rather than going, I'm going to throw the element at this one. I'm going to throw a PMR at this one. And I'm going to throw an instant. Oh, let's throw some flowers on this guy. Instead of looking at it from this title of the technique perspective, instead, why is this stuff working? And it's this foundational restructuring that you're going to get inside of How to Hypnotize Anybody that really builds that ability of just this deal with what emerges process that, in my opinion, that's what helps to build the unstoppable confidence that we need to really be successful.
Yes. Yes. And here's what I really love is everything you said is sensible to me, makes sense. But what I love most of all is that in your description, despite everything you said, what you focused on in your description is simplicity equals success.
Yes.
Right? I think that one of the biggest things that people in our industry do is they try too hard and they make things more complicated than they need to be. So being able to think the way you're thinking about this stuff, but underscoring that the foundation of it all is keeping it simple, it's just really, really lovely.
There's a really amazing moment that happened. I've got a certification class that's going on at the moment. It's a weekend format. So we just did our second weekend. We're all back together in a couple of weeks. And I have a student who she's been trained in hypnosis before, and she's now going through my course. And what you mentioned in terms of recognizing the simplicity, there's another bit of a virus that I think we should get rid of, where before, and this maybe is taking me down a couple of pegs in some positive way. She's going, oh, I signed up for your class because I've seen a lot of your videos that you have on YouTube. I've listened to your podcast, and you are just so smooth and so polished at it, and it just flows, and I need to do that. And as I covered this component inside of our recent course, you could see that moment where she discovered the tooth fairy, and she's there going, that's it? Oh, I can do that. And suddenly then in the practice session, she's doing it for herself. So we often could have that tendency. We see a speaker, we see a presenter, and it's like, wow, they are so good at this. If I keep practicing, I'll get there, which, yes, of course, the more experience you have, the better. Though at the same time, to recognize, well, what are the building blocks? What are the tools? There's only, let's go metaphorical here, there's only so many different Lego shapes, but you can build them to be any device that you want it to be, any object you want it to be.
I like
and when
that.
you have these basic building blocks, then the creativity is limitless.
Yeah.
But again, to recognize that at its core, there's only so many formulas inside of it and just little twists and turns. And here's an original strategy. Yeah, but it's really just these three things over and over.
That's awesome. That's great. That's perfect. When you think about the literal content that you're going to share with people that day when people come in August, what do you think the greatest value is of that content for them when they go back after the convention to their office, or they go back home and are hoping of opening an office, anything like that? Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
I'd highlight this answer by pointing out the more skilled, a lot of people know me on the business building side of hypnosis. And surprisingly, it's the same conversation. The more skilled I become of running my business, the better of a hypnotist I become. The same conversation, whether they're going from here's my conflict and now I'm in my solution, to I'm a curious shopper, to here's my credit card, the journey is nearly identical. So the biggest takeaway in terms of the actual content is not quite a literal thing. It's more of a philosophy. As I would say it on the business side of things, it's very rarely the platform. It's almost always the strategy. So it's where we get into this topic sometimes, we get into this conversation, sometimes as hypnotists around that technique doesn't work. Oh, that technique is out of date. You shouldn't use it anymore. That deepening method isn't good. When the truth is all these techniques are valid. They're only as good as you put them into use. And rather than label the technique as being good or bad, to recognize the technique serves a specific purpose. And when you understand why it's there, you then have, it's that ability that, again, when you understand the structure, then you're allowed to play with it. When you understand the format of what needs to be there, you know what you can then remove and pull out. So overriding everything, yes, there's specific strategies of here's how an effective suggestion is formed, here's what the induction includes. At its core, to go meta on it, it's that perspective that it's not the technique that's working, it's how you're putting that technique into use. And to bring that philosophy into our client sessions, let's go even bigger picture. I'd comfortably say there really aren't that many resistant clients out there. Instead, there's inflexible practitioners. So by understanding the core components of the process, you're going to build that greater flexibility to respond to whatever emerges, rather than going, oh, Elman induction doesn't work for that person. Nope, you can't do an instant on that person. And instead ask the question, how do I make this work even better?
You're so fun to talk with. I love it. You guys, this is the thing. Like, convention gives you access to these people who've been doing it for years and years. And in some cases, when you're really lucky, people who are doing it and actually know why it works when they're doing it. And because that's two different things. You'll meet a lot of people who are kind, caring people, and they're getting things done with their clients, but they don't actually always know why. And what you're hearing from Jason is a whole other level of thinking and awareness about how to practice. And that's why you should want to spend time with him. So August 13th, 8 a.m., How to Hypnotize Anybody. Simplicity equals success. Go hang out with Jason, learn about how to get to that next deepest level, drill down deeper on why you do what you do and how you can do it better. And you'll be glad that you did. Jason, thanks for making time for me.
All right. Thank you. See you soon.
All right. Be well.